system is failing. We're going to have more homelessness, more unemployment, and the government has to print more money. It's a command and control economy where the government tells you everything. I just don't trust our government. And they're going to have to start printing pretty quickly. And the more they print, the less value, purchasing power the dollar has, or the loonie, or the yen, or the peso. People are talking about inflation. I think we're in depression right now, and we're going to be the biggest depression in world history.
In the 1970s, that's when the world was changing.
The biggest bust in the history of the world is coming up. It's pensions. They trusted the government. They trusted their pension would be there, and it's going to go bust. And that's us. We'd get crushed.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bearable Bull here. And I got this aggressively average content for you today. As ladies and gentlemen, as I've been discussing, I believe a massive crash in global markets is coming this October. Remember that everything is coordinated when it comes to this financial system. Student loan repayments resume in the United States this October. Government shutdown begins October 2nd. Lockdowns for this health crisis are a possibility. Banking failures have begun. Remember Silicon Valley Bank. Don't think the impact from that is over. Evergrande just declared bankruptcy. The U.S. credit rating has declined for the first time in over a decade. And you think things are normal? Absolutely not. Things are going to get worse before they get better. But I did give every single one of you a case for why all of these negative events are great for us in the XRP community. Ladies and gentlemen, stay the course, as we have plenty of positive things coming in our direction soon. And despite the recent downturn in the market, specifically with XRP, our favorite digital asset, you want to say you bought at the top? I did too. You sold near the bottom? I did that before as well. Didn't take profits? We all haven't done that. You took profits too early? I've done that as well. Invested in shit coins? We all did. Ignored great projects? We all did. Followed idiots? Lost money to scams? Bought when you should have sold? Sold when you should have bought? You left the market crying? I never did that, and never will, and that's why my life has changed from crypto forever. And that's the only real difference between the successful and unsuccessful in this market. All those mistakes that I mentioned are normal. They are all part of the learning process. But you can't become wealthy if you don't fuck up in the beginning. Learn all the hard lessons, put in the work, and then become the new 1%. You only really lose if you leave. And I can't stress that enough. I see too many people out here willing to quit too early. But trust me, the day you quit is going to be the day you're too late to turn things around. Now, guys, with that being said, the BRICS nations have had bombshell announcements over the past couple days that we're going to cover. But one of the big ones is that Russia's President Putin calls on BRICS to abandon the dollar and settle trade in local currency. And this is one of the big things all of this has been about. The world volatility as a whole is 100% about the financial system. The decentralization away from the dollar as the world reserve currency. And you better believe the US isn't going to give that superpower up without a fight. And while I have plenty more to say on this, the big thing I want to discuss in this video today is how XRP could be replaced as that global settlement system by a couple of other different technologies. And what I mean by that is, it's not just going to be XRP settling everything. It's going to be a number of different digital assets. It's not just going to be one crypto monopoly to settle everything, because plenty of technologies are being used right now to help in this field. Now, as I get into that, I'm going to show you massive Ripple partner R3 discussing how Digital Dollar and the Digital Dollar project has announced the completion of its retail CBDC pilot. The report discusses the benefits and considerations of the US digital dollar to enable cross-border payments using DLT. And this is huge because this is coming off the heels of FedNow going live this July. There's no reason for all of you not to acknowledge how close we are to a financial revolution. And we are one major catalyst away, one geopolitical black swan event away from the digitization of the entire system. But here, what I want to discuss is what I just mentioned earlier. That XRP is not going to be the be-all, end-all solution, especially considering we just went through a 3-year-long lawsuit. A lot of potential developments and partnerships were passed over because of the SEC case and the uncertainty around XRP, as well as the lack of smart contract capabilities. And JC Collins has had a 2-thread day discussing just this. The BIS Project Mariana specifically names ERC20 technical standards as the platform for CBDC development. And the hybrid function market maker service is provided by Curve V2. There will be 2 EVM-based smart contracts that handle domestic and international payments. And contrary to what some XRP accounts are peddling, there is zero mention of XRP or Ripple in the BIS document. Ladies and gentlemen, this is important because the other day, a fake document was circulated in the XRP community. And while it could have just been a genuine mistake, we have to stick to the facts. The fact of the matter is there's going to be a crypto war for supremacy in this space coming very soon. And we need to have an open and honest discussion to counter the amount of false and fabricated information spread by XRP accounts looking for just likes and ad revenue and engagement farming. Ladies and gentlemen, I could come here, give you some clickbait nonsense saying we're going to $35,000 today and probably get double the amount of views that I typically get. But that would be disingenuous. And that's part of the reason the XRP community didn't take any profits back when $2 was the high we reached during the 2021 bull run. Plenty of people get hurt by these outlandish price predictions and unrealistic expectations. And while speculating is fine and dandy, we have to keep the facts grounded in reality. Without a doubt, Ripple and XRP have been mentioned in varying institutional white papers, and Ripple has even had partnerships with various banks and institutions. But none of this means that using XRP as the core of the new digital monetary framework is a done deal. These white papers and partnerships are meant to bring understanding and awareness to the companies working on the cross-border payment space and to keep a thumb on the technological innovation as it evolves. Ripple and XRP are part of this conversation for sure, and Ripple and XRP are definitely well positioned to be a company and digital asset that could very well have a global financial takeover. However, it is not 100% set in stone yet. It's a big bet, and it's something I believe will happen, but it is not guaranteed. But as we've seen with the relationships behind the scenes between Ether and those represented by the legacy banking interests, there is a unified initiative to keep Ripple as the outsider, and we all know this. The tech is there. But even after clarity in the SEC case, there still wasn't the official flood of value in an XRP that so many predicted. Well, in my opinion, we've been discussing how this pullback was expected in XRP. It's still underwhelming when the case didn't bring the price action and the flood of utility we expected. And while I do think that's coming in 2024, it's not here yet. Ether is the big boy in the room, that plays dirty and likes to throw shit at other projects. We know about ETHgate, and the only thing going in Ripple and XRP's way relative to ETH and the Ethereum Foundation is XRP is better technology. It's better, faster, cheaper at settling transactions in this use case. But with the head start Ether has had, and with the quicksand XRP has had to go through, they've done a lot of catching up. And we need to see how this heavyweight fight plays out. There are many of reasons for why Ether and JP Morgan and the incumbents didn't want to give up control to Ripple and XRP. And some of these reasons include giving up control to a truly decentralized architecture, which legacy banking interests are not interested in doing. Then there is how rich the executive leadership of Ripple would become if there was that level of mass adoption of XRP. Of course, then there are human characteristics, such as plain old pettiness. I've seen multi-billion-dollar companies put the lights out on smaller companies for the simple reason that they don't like the attitude of someone in a meeting or found them arrogant. The delay in the XRPL having smart contracts would also have created doubts. Though that is changing, it might be a little too late. I don't think it's too late. But that is a big limiting factor in XRP's adoption. Many people have also transferred from the legacy banking employment to work with Ripple. The simple answer is that people follow the money and opportunity. So yes, there is a recognized opportunity with Ripple and XRP, and people who work within the banking industry understand that. But still, that doesn't mean mass adoption of XRP within the banking and cross-border payment space is guaranteed. Also, other technologies evolving at an increasing rate. There are few in the space who can effectively keep up with the evolution of this tech. This leads to a massive distortion in understanding the different layer 1 chains, the services being built on them, and how they can potentially integrate and interact with one another. Even I don't fully understand everything that's changing in the space, but I don't have to. What I do understand is big business, monetary architecture, financial systems, geopolitics, and how they have all moved together throughout human history. I spent years reading and understanding white papers from the BIS, IMF, and other global and national institutions. Understanding them is only half the challenge. Project Mariana is built on the ERC20 standard. For those who don't know or understand, ERC20 is not just Ethereum. Other layer 1s are built on the ERC20 standard, and Flare is another one of those. These layer 1s don't use ETH for gas fees and have micro fees that transact in their own native tokens. It looks like everyone is adapting to ERC20, so perhaps it is worth considering ERC20 is the standard and not XRP. The best doesn't always win, unfortunately. Adaptability to ERC20 will allow other chains to interact with the core monetary and financial architecture for many different use cases, but the core of the architecture for Project Mariana is ERC, and what the in-house solution that the BIS will build on standard. XRP can still play a role in certain use cases, as will Flare, but it's not all the money. And that's the unfortunate reality. XRP will have a lot of money, but not all of it. People must start accepting that XRP will not be the core only standard. Maybe even a few CBDCs will be on the XRPL sidechain, but XRP is very unlikely at this point to be the one bridge currency transferring value around the world as many of us envisioned years ago. Things will keep evolving as well. A year from now, it will all be different again, as there are more advancements in the space with even more complex and efficient technology. There are much more knowledgeable people out there about the specifics of that tech. Finally, there is the outcome of Project Mariana. We shouldn't assume that this project will be a success. There will obviously be challenges, as there will be with other things. But whatever the outcome is, it will inevitably lead to a further evolution with tech around the next couple decades. This is why it is essential for Ripple to keep pushing forward, stay in the game, build relationships, and keep innovating and expanding the services available on the XRP ledger. Finally, there is the geopolitical aspects around the monetary transformation of the world. The Great War for Eurasia is building momentum, and the divisions between the US-based unipolar world and the emerging multilateral world are growing. All central banks operate under the directive of the BIS, so what the BIS does is very relevant to all central banks and their own CBDC initiatives. People must also understand that the IMF and World Bank are Bretton Woods institutions. The BIS is not. So as the world shifts away from US dollar hegemony, unless reformed, the IMF and World Bank will become more relevant, but the BIS will remain. All-out global war could fragment the BIS, which would then in turn create an even bigger problem. But the BIS survived World War II, so I don't think it's going anywhere. Keep it realistic for the future. Temper expectations. Know that XRP is one of the biggest possible winners out of the next bull run. Probably, in my opinion, the biggest ROI, especially in the top 10 that we have to deal with. However, it's not going to be a full-fledged global monopoly for one token to take over an entire niche. Reduce dependency on riddlers. Increase dependency on knowledge tech and builders, and we will become the new 1%. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to cap off this video for today, when asked how far this new financial system is, the Bank for International Settlements responded with this: many components are already in place. The New York Fed has been trailing tokenized deposits in combination with the CBDC. The Fed and the Digital Dollar Project have launched FedNow, and a potential US CBDC is on the horizon. And all I'm here to tell you is this: all these are leading to the potential XRP endgame. As the more the tokenized nature of the world financial system is being adopted, and the more the payment system gets digital, the more likely XRP will hit new all-time highs, increase use cases, increase adoption, and will give us the price action we more than deserved. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Bearable Bull here. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. Now I'll be back tomorrow with another video.
Assuming central banks and private sector and so on decide to go ahead with this, how far away would you say we are from kind of making it a reality? And can you talk through some of the steps that would need to happen between kind of here and there?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel, for that. I would say that many components that we discuss in the chapter are already in place. This is not science fiction. There are already several versions of CBDC experiments that have taken place, not least in our BIS Innovation Hub, but also within the private sector. There have been, well-known initiatives conducted by commercial banks and other private sector, consortia that have looked at tokenized deposits. Now, what's been missing so far is to bring those tokenized deposits together with the settlement medium provided by the wholesale CBDCs. And we think that's going to be a game changer, because what that will do is, given the ability of central bank money to knit together the different elements of the monetary and financial system, that could really open up the possibilities to much more useful applications of tokenization. We know from the technology that's already been trialed by these various these private sector initiatives that the technology, I think, is well known. In fact, there is quite a few elements that come from our Innovation Hub experiments that would also, be able to inform this. And don't forget that there's, among the central banks, there is an initiative going on at the moment at the New York Innovation Center. That's at the New York Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. They're actually looking at tokenized deposits, and they're trialing how tokenized deposits would work in combination with tokenized central bank money. And let me also mention the Digital Real project that's going on at the moment in Brazil. They've already, and this is all on the website at the Central Bank of Brazil. Take a look at that. It'll give you a sense of what's going on. Now, clearly, what we haven't done yet is to take tokenization beyond public and private money and bring in, for example, tokenized versions of securities or even other real assets. There is, I think, a gradation of how difficult or how challenging those would be. I think for securities, it's going to be, on the scale of things, relatively easier because we do already have securities registered in centralized securities depositories where you can actually record the change in ownership through book entry changes. So that's fairly close to something which is tokenized, I would say, and that's probably the lowest hanging fruit. But in principle, we can think about other types of assets. But then, that's going to be a slightly longer term project, I would say, because, there has to be a legal framework that has to follow as well.
Thanks very much, Jan. And there are two questions in the chat that are probably related to this, so we might take those. One is from Ian Hall from Global Government FinTech, and he's asking what happens next after this. With public and private sector working together, who does the BIS think will or could drive this?
Well, I think this is absolutely the central question, Ian. And as I mentioned, there are already several projects that the Innovation Hub is conducting. Our multi-CBDC projects in the Innovation Hub, they have involved the tokenized forms of central bank money only. We haven't incorporated tokenized deposits onto that kind of platform. On the one hand, on the other hand, we've had commercial banks and private sector consortia that have experimented with tokenized deposits, but in a more of a siloed setting because that's very much within the confines of that commercial bank. I think the next important step would be to bring the two parts together, and it would be a very natural step. For example, in this kind of collaboration where a central bank or a group of central banks could come together. They have a public policy mandate rather than commercial interests, and so would be very well placed to play the role of an honest broker, as it were. And I think there would be a great deal of alignment, both in terms of the interests and actually the vision of how these things might go. So I think we will need to start that discussion. But I think there are several principles that are reasonably clear. I mean, we need to have a coming together of the interested parties. I think central banks need to have a role here because they provide central bank money, after all, which is the settlement medium. But most of the customer-facing activities are going to be done by the private sector. So we need the private sector there as well. And I think it's going to be a very important coming together of both the official sector, as well as the private sector. And rest assured, this is going to be something that we will be discussing, going forward.